what the hobosexual squatter hates. So the hobosexual squatter hates instruction, hates wisdom, hates responsibility, hates accountability, hates vision. So the instruction, again, if you're 25 years homeless, that means you made an instruction somewhere on your journey. You can be homeless 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, 4, 5, double digit years, and that can still be the truth. That can still be the case that you didn't pay attention to an instruction. My situation when I became homeless had a lot to do with two things. One thing I remember when I was working in high school, and it was the first time that I could buy clothes for myself, and I would buy clothes, right? And so one day my mother just said to me that if you don't begin saving money when you graduate, all you're going to do is have a closet full of clothes and no savings. Well, I didn't respect that warning, right? That instruction. I will say though, I take full responsibility. At the same time, I will say that parents throw out all these types of warnings, but they don't sit down to try to explain to you what it really means. They kind of leave you off to yourself and hope you get it, right? But that's not to sort of disparage my mother or anything like that, because that decision not to begin a savings program began sort of understanding what that meant or even asking questions. See, that's my responsibility too. I didn't ask any questions. What do you mean about how to save or something? I wasn't willing to ask questions. So, in other words, I really wasn't willing to hear it. I really wasn't willing to hear that truth. Okay, well, fast forward many years later, that happened when I was in high school, 91 and 93, 11th and 12th grade. And then I moved to San Diego years after that. I went to college, things like that. And I had trouble still planning my transition from college to the workforce. And then fast forward sometime in 2006, I think, is when that warning really became truth. It was a warning, it was instruction, and that I missed, that I did not regard, and it became a truth, right? That it became the brick wall. Now, the reason why I actually became homeless, however, is because of disobedience. So that's the second thing that I mentioned. The first is not respecting instruction, and the second is because of disobedience. So as a Christian, as a born again Christian, we're not supposed to be unequally yoked with unbelievers, meaning that we're not supposed to marry. We're not supposed to go and live with them or something like that. You're going to deal with people who may not believe in God every day on the jobs, things like that. We're not talking about that. So a roommate, a friend girl from years ago offered her room for $275. I was paying about $650 in my place, and she was offering her room for $275, and I'm like, who wouldn't want to pay $275? But she wasn't saved, right, and so it would have been an unequally yoked situation. And there was multiple ironically, there was multiple non-saved people trying to warn me about the situation, and I just refused to hear the instruction. So I moved in, and it didn't take it was less than 3 months when she started acting up, because she was the type of person I thought she needed help, or I thought she wanted friendship, or I thought she was really offering her room for $275. She didn't need that. What she did was she was sort of like a hobosexual squatter in my finances. I ran my mouth about the type of money that I was getting from school in terms of student loans, scholarships, things like that. I ran my mouth and talked too much, and so she realized that she could get a cut of whatever I was doing by offering her room for $275 for her to get back on her feet, because she had just exited a relationship, and it seems like the relationship with the guy, he probably paid most of the expenses or something like that for the house, and so that left her kind of financially down. So she was looking for somebody to kind of help her in that way, but she didn't reveal that. She never revealed that. She just revealed that she had a room for rent for $275, and I took the bait. Less than 3 months, she started acting up, and I'm thinking to myself, why is she acting up like that? What's going on? You wanted me to come here. You asked for me to come here, right? I mean, I was doing just fine in my own place, which tell which should tell me that I played my own self. And I was doing just fine because what I realized, she purposed to use me and use my resources, and that she did not have any true intent of me staying there. It would have been better when I think about it, Lord have mercy. When I think about it, it would have been better for her to just ask me for a loan than to ask me to come and move with her, act up, and then I turn around and have to move out in less than 8 months. I didn't even get a chance to stay there. Less the full year, I didn't even get a chance to stay there. And so here it is. I go there and I'm thinking that okay, everything is cool and I can stay here and things like that. And it's not like I needed the place. I didn't need the place. I had my little school job in college. I had the school money. I didn't need the place, but it looked like when I moved into her house that I needed a place or something like that. And people start treating you in such a way. Had I stayed in that situation longer after she wanted me to leave and made it very clear that she wanted me to leave, then I would have become a homosexual squatter. But I wasn't one initially because I contributed rent. I did what I was supposed to do on my end. But homosexual squatter, they hate instruction. Those are two instances where I did not respect instruction. Right? I don't call myself a homosexual squatter uh, um, in those two instances. But when I look at people who hate instruction, we all could be considered that. They also hate wisdom. They don't like the fact that you have walked out the steps that they need to take. That's wisdom. They have already, the person who has walked out the steps, who is doling out wisdom to you, they know how things are supposed to go in a traditional sense. You finish high school, you go get a job, you move out, you go get your own place, you keep that job, you keep that place, and you transition from living at your parents' house to now becoming an adult. And I don't always think you become an adult just because you turn 18. It might take you almost to 25 years old to really get a sense of you becoming an adult. However, it takes you to your 40s, late 30s to your 40s, to actually understand your mortality, and that actually you've been an adult the whole time from 18. So it's kind of weird. They also hate responsibility. I don't know if they have a failure complex, that if they take responsibility and it fails, it's not going to work, then I'm a failure or something like that. I'm not quite sure, but the responsibility and the accountability aspects of this is that they don't want to take on anything in their hands that they can work with, take responsibility for, uh, develop, love, invest in, help somebody with. Because when you don't want to take responsibility, you are missing out on the opportunity to help somebody else. That responsibility is transferable, or it should be transferable. As soon as you learn how to take responsibility and you build a skill of that, it's going to be easy for you then to talk to somebody else when they come on your path, who needs to take responsibility. But if you don't have a history of taking responsibility, it's going to show up in the friendships you have, in the relationships you have, because you tend to attract who you are and what you are. And if you are the type of person who doesn't take responsibility, doesn't take accountability, you usually are the types of people who are going to get yourself into reckless living, trying to live vicariously or something like that, without actually paying bills and not doing what you're supposed to do. And that usually leads, in some form or fashion, to you committing a crime, which then leads you to going to jail, to prison. Why do you think some people go back and forth into prison? What they call recidivism. Why do you think they keep doing that? Because it gives them shelter. It gives them shelter. It gives them a place to stay for a minute, for temporary reasons. It gives them food. It gives them air conditioning. It gives them a little bit of safety if they can maintain right in that environment. Because they get out, they're all happy, about getting out, but they never plan their transition to get out. They latch onto a woman, or a woman latches onto them, and they move into the house with the woman. And then it goes good. There's like high sex. She's cooking for him. He's giving it to her. She's giving it to him. And then they wake up, and then they realize what the situation really is. And the woman starts saying, "Hey, okay, when are you going to find a job? Okay, when are you going to do this?" And a lot of times they be trying to go after some fast money hustle. A lot of them want to become rappers. A lot of them try to still transition back into criminal activity. And then when it gets to a point where the woman is beginning to realize that it's not going to change, that the person is not really trying to change, and they just trying to stay in the same kind of mindset that they were when they went to prison and was in prison and then got out of prison, then it moves to this situation. Okay, you got to go. uh, the problem with that, then it gets to a point where it can also get violent in that situation, and the person is not even willing to sort of take accountability for their own lives, right? As soon as somebody lets you come live with them, that's the time to kind of plan. You should be planning prior to that, but you should definitely use that opportunity to plan. So they ultimately hate vision because vision requires you to see your future right now, see your future in the present. Like, I want to become X, right? Or I want to become Z, but I'm in X right now. And so I need to work on X and Y so I can get to Z. They don't like vision because what they want to do is live a very uh, um, vagabondish life without taking any responsibilities. Like when I was in the shelter, I had to stay at Salvation Army one time for about less than 6 months. I had to stay in the shelter, and somebody told me that the men who were sitting outside of the shelter, kind of like it was hot, and what they would do would come in, use the restroom at the Salvation Army, and get some water, and then they would go out and sit outside. And then on a Friday, they would go to the liquor store and get them some liquor and drink some liquor, laid out on the grass. And someone told me that a lot of those men got a disability check. And I'm thinking to myself, so you got money, okay, you got money. Why don't you just go on ahead and go get into a place? You can go get into a place. They don't want that. They don't want the vision. They don't want the responsibility, the accountability, and the vision of having a place and staying in that place. They don't want that. I don't understand why you don't want that, but they don't want the responsibility of having to pay rent, pay utilities, pay for food. Really, in all respects, they don't want the responsibility of paying for responsibility. That's what it really comes down to. And so they will refuse instruction. They will not listen to the person who has already experienced the situation, which is wisdom. They won't take responsibility so that they can measure success. They won't hold themselves accountable because they are grown people and they don't want to hear vision about anything. And I don't honestly know if someone's heart has been broken, like they tried to go after something and it didn't work out. I don't know. But they don't like vision. And so, and if they don't like vision, if they hate vision, they lack vision. And so you coming along and trying to help them is not actually going to help them because they don't have a vision of becoming something else.